You probably haven't heard from me or seen me in a while. A lot of people haven't. In this video, I want to share a personal message. I'm sharing my story because I want you to know something about me, and maybe sharing the story will also help you too. Hi, my name is Gwendolyn. People call me Gwen. I'm a transgender woman and I have been in transition for at least 2 years. My official documents have even been added. And my pronouns are she and her. And yeah, I want to share with you my story. I'm still the same game developer you probably remember. And yeah, I'm not that different. I just feel a lot happier now. The reason I wanted to make this video is because coming out is never easy. It's always a little bit awkward. But by sharing my story this way, I can at least share some information and make it a little bit easier for us all. And it is actually a little bit hard to make this video because I'm not used, strangely enough, to take a lot of space. So just like an arachnophobe is really afraid of spiders and wouldn't want to let one crawl over their face, for me this is the same. Making a video about myself, but I've had a lot of counseling, so I'm sure I can take it right now. Yeah, what I've noticed is that a lot of people don't know any other transgender person in their life, so they go with whatever knowledge they have. They need to make assumptions, and that's where sometimes it gets awkward. So that's also why I'm sharing this story. I'm a little bit different from maybe the famous transgender people you knew. People who might have transitioned like right when they hit puberty. I'm of course a little bit older and things are a little bit different. Each transgender person's story is unique and I want to share my story with you. It is very, very nice to be able to express yourself, and that's why I'll be explaining things like a person's sex, gender identity and sexual preference, and gender roles. What are those? I'll be diving right into it. So starting with a certain sex, you all know that when you are born you see that everyone has a certain sexual organ, and then people think, oh, that must be a boy, that must be a girl. In reality, there's also something like a gender identity. So when your identity doesn't match your sex organ, then you are transgender. When it does match, we could say you're cis. And maybe if you are cis, you never thought to make the difference between it, because why would you? They overlap, they're the same, the difference is not important. I found out when it is different, you're transgender, it's pretty nice to be able to discern the two. Now another thing is that gender is not that binary for most people. So whether you might be on the female or the male spectrum in your identity, you could also be in between, or it could even fluctuate. We call that gender fluid or non-binary. And personally, when I just started to come out, I just told people I was gender fluid because I had a lot of experimentation to do and I just wasn't sure what I was. Then another thing that is very, I didn't know about it, it's the gender role that people perform. So whenever you are going through life, some people might be very feminine. Oh my gosh, I'm not like that myself. You can maybe tell. But that actually confused me in the beginning, because I really felt like a woman. People expected me to behave very, very feminine. And I was like, oh my god, maybe I'm not transgender. But in the end, it's also a different facet of your personality. My sisters and my mother, they don't act very feminine, but they are real women, I can tell you. They identify as such. So in the end I thought, okay, that's bullshit. There's another thing called a gender role, and it's a thing that is separate from how you identify. Or another thing, your sexuality. One of the questions a lot of people pose to me is, okay, so you're a woman now, do you like men? And actually I still like women. So on that front I can also say that your sexuality or your sexual preference is not something that is necessarily related to all of this. I want to talk to you about basically the role you play when you go through life, because I've always thought that I was me. I was who I defined who I was. And when I came out as transgender and I started to let people in on this, the responses were very mixed. And that was very confusing to me. I just thought that the people who were close to me would really support me and that the people who weren't that close maybe didn't care or whatever. But it turns out the people who are pretty close to you can have a pretty gendered relationship with you. So whenever I was someone's example, a role model, maybe even a male role model, they would be really shocked. Maybe I was the boyfriend or the son, and people were like, I don't want to let go of that person. So it's even normal if people go and mourn you when you come out. I learned that you are, at least for 50%, what other people want you to be for them. And that didn't make coming out pretty easy. It made it pretty hard actually, most of the time. So sometimes people ask me, is it hard being transgender? Do you experience transphobia? And I must say, here in the Netherlands, it's actually quite rare. I've only had a couple of instances where there was flat out transphobia, people who said nasty things and just didn't let me be myself. But most of the time, it's a little bit more hidden. People can respond in a way that at first seems positive, but later on you might realize that's not really nice. For instance, some people told me that I was really brave for saying that I was transgender and actually transitioning. And at first I was like, okay, thank you, nice, thank you very much. But then I thought, what if I replace myself with another minority? So what if someone identifies as a male and they say to someone, I'm gay, I like men. And then someone says, wow, I really think it's brave that you say you're gay and that you like men. Then I started to realize that's a homophobic expression, and people have been transphobic towards me when they said that. And that's not very nice to realize, but I don't want to point fingers because I think most people can be transphobic. If you don't know it and you've never encountered it, it's just something you might feel like, and you need to reflect upon it and maybe hopefully learn to accept it. I had to learn to accept myself because transphobia was also inside of me. When I realized at first I felt like a woman, I said, yeah, I think I'm gender fluid, so I wasn't quite sure where I stood. But also I thought, well, okay, I'm a transgender now, I belong to a certain group of people, and do I want to belong to that group of people? I don't know. And in the end I realized, I am who I am, and if I belong to that group of people, I'm proud to be part of those people because they basically go through a lot and they learn to be themselves, which cannot be said for a lot of other people. So what is it like being a transgender? It's a question that people ask me. It's hard to answer. People also ask, did you always know? Even harder to answer. Because yeah, I always knew, and no, I had no idea. If you would have told me 2-3 years ago, hey, you're transgender, I would have said, yeah, right. And at the same time, there were a lot of behaviors and a lot of traits and a lot of things I knew about myself which actually fit into how people feel when they're transgender. So it's really hard, and I think a part of it has been denial. I have felt really unhappy with who I was and how I was perceived. I have become a bit hard to handle during certain times. I had to wear traditional or tidy boyish clothes, and I think a lot of people don't really notice. The most stories that you'll hear are from people who knew that they were transgender from an early age. I'm what they call a late onset transgender, someone who realized after their puberty that they are transgender, and things just work differently then. You're grown up, you've had a lot of developments, and also the road is hard. I mean, if you're always unhappy, it's like you're always walking with a little stone in your shoe. At one point you don't even realize the stone is there. So if you realize afterwards there was a stone, it's also hard to realize what normal is. It's a way longer journey. So how you truly identify is something you need to experiment with, something you need to kind of investigate yourself. And that's never easy. especially because the conversation in medical terms is always focused around gender dysphoria. So that's the feeling I had when I had to wear tidy boys' clothes. And yeah, it's a weird feeling. Can't really describe it. I felt like I had to eat something nasty and keep it in my mouth, but then more deep inside me. And I just felt that way, never really realized it. And that's the thing, if you are going in a transition, that the psychiatrist and the other medical staff, they want to help you with that. They want to solve the gender dysphoria. You should not feel that anymore. But I've also found that another part is gender euphoria. So when I started to dress like a woman, express myself like a woman, change my name, I noticed I was very happy. I didn't feel that happy ever in my life. I was proud of who I was. I never felt that. And I think really we should focus more on that. Like, why do we have to focus on not making people feel sad? Let's focus on helping people feel happy. Don't be afraid to say anything wrong, because if it comes from a good place and you're kind and you mean well, you cannot offend me. I've had a lot of conversations. People said a lot of stupid stuff. You don't offend me. I'm here to basically get in touch with you if you want to and if you're friendly. And I want to thank you very much. If you have questions, send me a line. I'm happy to answer or get in touch again. And thank you for watching this video.